Imagine, it's the late 1800s, and you're aboard a steam-powered ocean liner, sailing across the Pacific Ocean. As you peer out toward the horizon, you see palm trees on beaches, beside large sugarcane plantations, imagining an endless stream of people seeking opportunity. In your hands, you hold a newspaper from the morning you left. The headline? America's New Frontier, lands beyond our shores await. Your pulse quickens as you read about the promise of faraway lands, new opportunities, and the prospect of even greater power for the United States. Today, we embark on a journey into a time when America's gaze began to extend beyond its borders to lands like Hawaii. The age of imperialism was a time of great excitement, but also a time of controversy and debate. As we explore this period, today our focus will simply be why. Why did the United States choose to reach across the oceans? Our learning goals are to define imperialism, explain the reasons for American imperialism, and describe the debate over imperialism. Now, to understand the age of imperialism, we first need to know what imperialism means. Imagine you're playing a game of chess. In chess, you move your pieces around to control the board, right? Making the right moves gives you an advantage over the other player. Imperialism is a bit like that. But instead of a game with pieces, it's about nations extending their influence and power over other lands. It might look like controlling business in another area, or maybe setting up military bases. It could also mean influencing their political decisions so they make friendly policies for trade, or outright taking over. In theory, imperialism should make an empire richer, stronger, and safer. As we talk about American imperialism, we'll be talking about a time in the 1890s and early 1900s when the United States began to extend its reach beyond its borders. This happened in two theaters, or zones: Pacific Islands, like Hawaii, and Latin America. But the big question is still why? Pause here and predict why the US would want to expand its influence. For a long time, many Americans held a view called manifest destiny, which was a belief that the United States was destined to expand across North America with God's blessing. By the end of the 19th century, the western frontier had been controlled. Some people began looking to lands beyond, like Hawaii to the west or Cuba to the south. There were many reasons why some people looked to expand America's influence to new lands. Firstly, there were business interests. Americans wanted cheap raw materials for their factories, and they were always in search of new markets of customers to sell their products to. There was also jingoism, an extreme form of national pride based on the belief that the United States is better than other countries. Jingoists felt that America should be the most powerful nation in the world and supported the control of other lands. This meant competing with European powers. Countries like Great Britain and Spain were also expanding their empires. Jingoists didn't want to be left behind in this race for control of lands around the world. Another ideology, known as social Darwinism, was used by some to justify imperialism. This racist belief was based on the idea of survival of the fittest. Its supporters believed that white people were biologically superior to people of other races. This is a harmful point of view, similar to the way slavers justify the enslavement of black people. It is racist and incorrect. Let's consider Hawaii as an example of these ideas. Hawaii was rich in resources like sugar and pineapples. This offered new business opportunities for American plantation owners. They believed that colonizing Hawaii would make them richer. And Hawaii's strategic location in the center of the Pacific Ocean also attracted the interest of the US Navy. Jingoists believed the presence of the Navy would make the United States stronger and safer. See where this is going? Social Darwinists wrongly believed that white Americans were more fit to rule the Hawaiian Islands, and that white rule would somehow improve the lives of the native Hawaiian people. Given these reasons, can you think of any problems imperialism might cause? Did you say that it might be harmful to people living in the lands that Americans hope to colonize? If you did, you're right. And you aren't the only one to think that. Expansionist ideas were not accepted by everyone, and a debate ensued among politicians who supported and opposed expansion. As you can imagine, the idea of imperialism was hotly debated. On one side, you had the expansionists, the supporters of imperialism. They saw big benefits for America. Expansionists predicted that the growth of American businesses in Hawaii would be good for the economy. By reaching new customers and exploiting foreign resources, they thought America would become richer. And they thought installing military bases there would make America stronger and safer. But there were also anti-expansionists, those who opposed imperialism. They had several concerns. Anti-expansionists worried about the ethics of imperialism. They believed in every country's right to freedom and independence. They believed expanding into other lands would mean taking away those rights for the native inhabitants, like the Hawaiians. Anti-expansionists were also concerned about the cost of maintaining distant colonies and the risk of becoming involved in foreign conflicts. In Hawaii, for example, there was a risk of conflict with other nations interested in the Pacific region, like Great Britain, Spain, and Germany. But the believers of jingoism and social Darwinism often dismissed these concerns. They argued that it would be beneficial for the Hawaiian people to be ruled by and to trade with Americans, who they believed would improve their economy and bring better technology to their communities, making them richer, stronger, and safer too. American businesses stood to profit from expansion, and American consumers could expect cheaper goods. And if there was a conflict in the Pacific, the US military would have a good defense with outposts in Hawaii. So imperialism was supported by more people than those who opposed it. Before we move into specific imperial actions in the rest of the unit, take a moment to predict how imperialism might impact the people living in the lands the US colonized. How might the Hawaiians be affected? We'll look more closely soon, but know that for the average voter, economic growth in their own community seemed much more important than the struggle of a distant, unfamiliar people. The 1890s were a time of great change for America. The country was growing, expanding, and starting to play a bigger role on the world stage. This new path was not without its controversies and challenges. Today, as we look around our world, we can see the echoes of this period everywhere. Understanding this time helps us to understand our world today, and it raises important questions about power, ethics, and the role of nations in a global community. In your personal life, have you witnessed someone with more power take advantage of someone with less power? Why is this harmful? And do you think the same principles from your personal example apply to a global context? In our next lesson, we'll stay here in Hawaii to learn more about imperialism and the Pacific Theater. Till then, historians, always remember, shaping the future begins with understanding the past.
Hey, hey.